Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have a yellow warning for rain issued for Western Scotland, as we are going to see a lot of rain over the next few days, as we are seeing some relatively stormy conditions coming in off the Atlantic, as we do have the remnants of Storm Ernesto really powering up the jet stream. Now we are going to see that rain mainly in the north and west through Wednesday, Thursday, and then as we head into Friday, it could transition further southwards and eastwards. So it looks like all areas are going to see some quite heavy rain over the next 3 or 4 days, just all at different times. As we head into the next week, though, as we see from the latest UKV, we could start to see some high pressure building in. And as we have a look at the longer range runs, they are still showing some strain from the jet stream. But it does look like, with pretty high confidence now, high pressure will be building in over northern Europe, and that could allow a southerly wind to head our way. And that's what we are seeing now from the longer range runs, and we have seen rumblings from the ensembles in the past few days for potentially some very warm or even hot air for the final few days of August and early September. The exact pressure pattern that would come with that is still uncertain. Could it be thundery with low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, or could it be more high pressure dominated and much drier and warmer or hotter? We'll have to wait and see, but we'll give a good idea on what could be happening in the second half of the video. So you remember, if you enjoy videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, we've had a fairly mundane day today, actually. A few showers in the north, heavy, blustery, and they have been significant in places. But for most, it's been a fairly dry day, lots of sunshine, and actually has been pretty pleasant. But it's all going to change through Wednesday, as we are going to see heavy rain moving in. Now, do put on the temperatures, it's not too bad today, widely sort of low 20s, and you can see this evening, as I'm recording this late on Tuesday, it's going to be a relatively average night. Not particularly cold, but not particularly warm or muggy either, so kind of decent conditions for sleeping. If you look at the weather warnings, if we do start on Wednesday, you can see we've got this rain warning issued from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. on Thursday. Now, it hasn't been updated since we last spoke about this. It's been last updated yesterday on Monday, so we won't look at this in too much detail, but we will just roughly go over what's going to be happening. We'll actually have a look at it in detail on the UKV in a minute, but we are likely to see a lot of rain, 75 to 100 millimetres, so we do see a very slow-moving weather front moving in off the Atlantic. Could be higher amounts, and instead it should ease through Thursday afternoon. Now, if you go over to the UKV, we can actually have a look at this precipitation band in a little bit more detail now. You can see through into early Wednesday, we start to see that big wall of heavy rain moving in. Now, initially, it looks like it's going to pass through, but it doesn't really. It kind of lingers across Western Scotland for most of Wednesday and kind of gets reinforced into Thursday and lingers through till Thursday morning. From the looks of this run, that yellow warning may be cut short by a few hours, as it does look like by around the mid-morning period, most of that heavy rain will have dissipated. So I'll have to wait and see what the Met Office does. Maybe they'll update that tomorrow morning. But you see through the rest of Thursday, rain starting to dribble and drabble further southwards, but nothing too much. But that's not the end of it. As we head into Friday, another big wall of rain moving in. Lots of heavy rain further northwards, and this is a more organised area of low pressure, and this could actually produce some very strong winds, maybe 70 mile per hour winds associated with this. That's gusts within this little hook you can see. That's where the pressure is really low towards the centre. We're seeing very tight isobars, meaning very strong winds. So I wouldn't be surprised maybe tomorrow or through Thursday for a yellow warning for wind to be put in force for this. We'll have a look at those wind gusts in a second. But it's really the rain. It moves through very heavily, but quickly. But then through Friday evening, we see more very heavy rain linger in the far southeast before eventually clearing into Saturday. And then into Sunday, it doesn't look too bad as we start to see that high pressure and southerly wind influence starting to push in. You can look at the upper air temperatures. Nothing too spectacular, but it could increase into early next week. If you look at the wind gusts, you can see it is going to be fairly blustery over the next few days, maybe 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts, really picking up through Wednesday into Thursday, maybe getting as high as 65, maybe even 70. But it's really, as we head into Friday morning, a bit of a lull through Thursday evening, and then Friday morning, look at that, really strong winds around that hook, 70 to maybe as high as 80 mile/hour gusts within that. So I wouldn't be surprised for that stretch from the Isle of Man through parts of southern Scotland to northeast England. Wouldn't be surprised to potentially see a yellow warning for wind. But again, I'll update you on that nearer the time. If you look at the max temperatures now, you can see as we head through Wednesday, nothing too great, high teens or low 20s, really average to actually a little bit below average. As we head into Thursday, again, looking maybe high teens, maybe touching 20, 21, not great if I'm being honest. Friday maybe a touch warmer, 23, 24s, we've got a bit of a warm sector. And then into Saturday, we're into slightly fresher again, high teens or low 20s. And the same could be said for Sunday. We have to remember we are coming to the final couple of weeks really of meteorological summer. So those warm days where it's widely 23 to 25 are going to become harder and harder to achieve. We're going to need warmer and warmer air masses to sustain that. So that's why we're starting to see these average temperatures starting to drop off by a couple of degrees. Really not massive. It's only a couple of degrees compared to a month ago, but it is slowly dropping off. By the time we get to end of September into October, we'd be lucky without any sort of really warm air masses to be getting more than the mid to high teens. So we are on that slow descent now towards fresher conditions. We're just starting to see those top temperatures with sort of average air starting to slowly drop off. Now, if you look at the latest GFS, you can see the relatively stormy conditions coming in at the moment. You can see the remnants of Storm Ernesto there, just heading into the North Atlantic. It's really going to spin up the jet stream, and we are going to see some relatively active conditions over the next few days. You can see those pretty lively low pressure systems moving in, and that's going to keep it relatively unsettled. Into next week, though, we still see a westerly wind, but high pressure builds to our east and extends over the top of us, and it brings in a direct southerly, and it could go very warm or hot. But the one caveat I'll put with that is the uncertainty between whether it's high pressure dominated or low pressure dominated. You see low pressure set out to our west, high pressure out to our east. Which one will win? If the high pressure wins, it'll be hot and dry. If the low pressure wins, it could still be warm and hot at times, but it could be pretty thundery. Here, high pressure wins out for a time before eventually right towards the end of the run, low pressure does make an advance. We start to see a bit of northern blocking right in extended range. Again, we won't look at this in too much detail, but there could be some big temperature clashes there. The -5 isotherm isn't too far from Scotland, but the +20 isotherm isn't too far from southern England. Can sort of get these patterns into early September because the cool air is starting to form over the North Pole, but equally very hot air still sits across the Mediterranean, Iberia and North Africa. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's a pretty remarkable chart there. You can see the upper air temperatures are 12 degrees above average across northern France. Just to the north of Scotland towards Iceland, we're around 10 degrees below average. Now, if you compare to the GEM, again, westerly flow at the moment with those remnants of Ernesto, pretty unsettled and stormy, but it will end by early next week. And then again, we see that high pressure to our east, low pressure to our west, southerly winds. You can follow those isobars, they're coming up from the south, and you see warm air starting to get pushed our way. Not quite as quick because that pressure gradient isn't as much, but you can see southerly winds starting to appear, and you can see it does go warm, maybe hot, but there's not quite as much hot air to our south. But the difference is high pressure is dominating a lot more. Still very strong low pressure out in the North Atlantic, but high pressure is dominating quite a bit more. Again, we'll have to see exactly what wins out. Now, if you have a look at the latest ECMWF, again, westerly flow relatively strong over the coming days, stormy, and then eventually high pressure does build in. And again, it's a battle between the low pressure to our west, high pressure to our east. Here, though, low pressure actually looks like it does win out. And although there is some high pressure influence, we see a lot more low pressure. So it would be warm, maybe hot, but quite a lot more rain and thundery conditions. Now, if you sum this all up by looking at the latest ensembles, up and down over the next 5 to 7 days expected with the unsettled conditions. Really, for London in the southeast, it's really that rain through Friday night. But into the last few days of August, early September, precipitation drops, good sign for higher pressure, and those temperatures rise quite significantly to around the 10 to 15 degree isotherm. Now, heading into early autumn, we can't really add my typical summer 15 degrees that do add to those upper air temperatures, i.e. when it's showing 15 degrees at 850 HPA. With dry conditions, I'd say we could get to 30 degrees. We're starting to get to the period where we're going to have to drop that down a bit. So maybe 12 degrees would be a good estimate for early September. Remember, it is a very, very rough estimate. Other factors go in there, but it just allows us to look at those temperatures at the surface using these upper air charts. So with the upper air temperatures, around the 10 to 15 degree mark, we are looking at mid to high 20s. So nothing ridiculous, but could be warm, and it could be built on over a number of days. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did get to that 15 degree temperature bump. We'll have to wait and see, but definitely very strong signal for above average temperatures. 5+ degrees above average temperatures is looking pretty decent indeed. And if we do compare to the ECMWF broadly, it is very similar. Up and down over the next week, and then longer range, more towards average, more towards minimal precipitation, and then 5 degrees again above average. If we do actually have a look at the raw 2 meter temperatures here, you can see much more towards the low to mid 20s, or even upper 20s, or even low 30s. So definitely on quite an upwards trend into late August, early September. So yeah, signs of potentially some heat returning to end summer. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.